In the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are some nice prayers by Hanuman in glorification of Lord Ramachandra. And I thought I would read those prayers and then maybe a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that describes how the Lord descends into this world and what His purpose for descending into the world is. So first I'd like to read a couple of verses in the Bhagavatam. I won't do the Sanskrit because nobody will understand it. Even if they understood Sanskrit the way I do it, nobody would understand it anyway. So we'll just spare everybody the pain of me having to go through that, and myself the pain also. So Hanuman chants the following mantras. Let me please your lordship by chanting the Bij mantra Omkar, which is to offer my respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who is the best among the most highly elevated personalities. Your lordship is the reservoir of all good qualities of Aryans, people who are advanced. Your character and behavior are always consistent, and you always control your senses and mind. Acting just like an ordinary human being, you exhibit exemplary character to teach others how to behave. There is a touchstone that can be used to examine the qualities of gold, but you are like a touchstone that can verify all good qualities. You are worshipped by Brahmanas, who are the foremost of all devotees. You, the Supreme Person, are the King of Kings, and therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Text number 4. O Lord, whose pure form, Satchidananda Vigraha, is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, can be perceived by pure consciousness. In the Vedanta, He is described as being one without a second. Because of His spiritual potency, He is untouched by the contamination of material nature, and because He is not subjected to material vision, He is known as transcendental. He has no material activities, nor has He a material form or name. Only pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can one perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. Let us be firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, and let us offer respectful obeisances unto those transcendental lotus feet. Text number 5. It was ordained that Ravana. Any Ravanas in the crowd? Had a few hands go up. It was ordained that Ravana, the chief of the Rakshasas, could not be killed by anyone but a man. And for this reason, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in the form of a human being. Lord Ramachandra's mission, however, was not only to kill Ravana, to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around sex life or centered around one's wife is the cause of many miseries. He is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead, and nothing is lamentable for Him. Therefore, why else could He be subjected to the tribulations by kidnapping of Mother Sita? Text number 6. It says, Lord Sri Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. He is not attracted to anything in this material world. He is the most beloved super soul of all self-realized souls, and He is their very intimate friend. He is full of all opulences. Therefore, He could not possibly have suffered because of separation from His wife, nor could He have given up His wife and Lakshmana, His younger brother. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. Text number 7. One cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we, uncivilized inhabitants of the forest, remember Hanuman is a monkey, have not taken noble births. Although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends. Text number 8. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than a man, such as a beast or a bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need for great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for He accepts even a small service offered by His devotees. Thus He is satisfied, and as soon as He is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead Vaikuntha. Lord Ramachandra ki jai. So, within these verses, there are many purports. And the purports are very stringent, I'll say. They cut through the knot of material attachment. And we learn from Bhagavad Gita that we are not this material body, but that we're the soul inside. Today I was reading in the folio. Excuse me. Sorry. There you go. There you go. Today I was reading in the folio. There are several days where Srila Prabhupada gave class on Lord Ramachandra's appearance day. And he said today is Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and he quoted that Ramani verse from the Brahma Samhita. And then he went on to describe 4 varnas and ashrams. Nothing about Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. Nothing. Just basically Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and we meant to be Brahmins, Vaishyas, Shudras, Kshatriyas, be a good Kshatriya, be a good Brahmin, be a good this, be a good that, do this, do that. You're not the body, you're spirit, soul, you're meant to serve Krishna, and on and on and on. And today is Sri Ramachandra's appearance day, Haribol. So I was looking for something to give class on, and I was thinking what to do. So I came across this verse, and I remembered this verse, part of the purport of this verse in Bhagavad Gita. So I thought I would read this in the translation and purport. It's a very, very well-known verse. This one I'll chant, because I've been chanting this one for a long time, and I can almost do it. Ajopi san of Anayatma, Bhutanam Vishwaropi san, Prakatim Swamadhisthaya, Sambhagami Atmamaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So this is Lord Ramachandra. I'm starting to speak. To turn it down a little bit. The Lord Sri Ram appears in the transcendental body. Although appearing as a human being, he is still transcendental in every respect. This was explained by Srila Prabhupada in many lectures, where he would describe that the Supreme Lord appears as a little child like Krishna. But even in that form of Krishna, that little baby form, still he has all potency. As a young child, just imagine if a young child here all of a sudden decided that he could be picked up by a tornado, and all of a sudden the tornado comes crashing down on the child. That's Krishna. Even as a little teeny child. So even Brahma couldn't figure out, how is it possible that this little child is the Supreme Personality of God? How is it possible that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is this little teeny child? I don't believe it. So he took all his friends and calves and hid them in a cave. And he turned around and looked, and they were still there. And he said, how is this possible? So he went down to check it out. Brahma has 4 heads. That means he has 8 eyes. You can see a lot. That's the form of Brahma in our planet. Our universe. Other universes, he has many forms, many heads. 1,000 heads. Imagine that. Stacked up on I don't know how they do that, but it's there in the Bhagavatam, so it's true. So when he saw that Krishna had expanded himself into so many forms, he then realized that this is actually the Supreme Personality of God, although he appears to be acting as a child. So the same way, Lord Ramachandra, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared to be a henpecked husband, as been described by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that this Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared to be distressed over the absence of Sita. But he wasn't distressed, but he was distressed. And he wasn't distressed, but he was distressed. This is the amazing nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who can understand? Therefore we need purport. So here we have. The Lord has spoken about the particularity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many, many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. Is that true? What did we do? What were we doing at noon? We had to think, what was I doing at noon? Most of us are sleeping or playing or doing this or that. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for the common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. But Krishna can remember everything from every birth, at every time, at every moment, at every instant. Krishna knows everything about everything, and there's nothing that he doesn't know. He even knows the psychic movements, Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita. He says he even knows the psychic movements of the living entity. In other words, he knows what you're thinking. It's kind of like Santa Claus, huh? He knows what you've been thinking. He knows if you've been good or bad. He knows all these different things. So you better be good, for goodness sakes. This is what Krishna is telling us. So, and yet, men often dare to claim to be God or Krishna. Prabhupada said that Krishna lives at Govardhan Hill. So someone would ask, you just lift one small Volkswagen bug. See what you're going to do. You're going to do that. You're going to lift up one car. Of course, sometimes people do that, you know. And it's a very rare case. They can lift a car. What is that? Adrenaline, you know. Accident. Just so Krishna, he just used the left finger of his left hand. In other words, the weakest finger of the weakest hand. Of course, Krishna's fingers have no distinction between weakness and strongness, not like us. And he picked up the hill, and he held it over his head for 7 days. Every once in a while, he'd shake it a little bit just to disturb everybody. He'd shake it a little bit, get the gopis to shake and do different things. When Krishna was there, the Supreme Personality of God had lived in Govardhan Hill. Very powerful. Little boy, 7 years old. So they may claim to be Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. I remember when I was a student at the university, there was a sign, become God in so many days, give $35 and become God in 6 months. And I thought, this is so nonsense. Become God? How do you become God? You're either God or you're not God. And if you don't know that you're not God, you ain't going to know you're God very soon by chanting some mantra. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. So again, the Lord explains his prakriti, or his form. Prakriti means nature, as well as sarupa, or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body, as the common living entities change from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. Well, so what kind of body are we going to get? Whatever state of consciousness we're in at the time we leave this body, that state we're going to attain without fail. So we better think of Krishna. So how do we think of Krishna at the time of death? We practice, as Prabhupada says in the purport to that verse, he says, by incessantly and constantly chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Continuously tolerating all difficulties, because there will be so many difficulties. We were discussing them last night. The mind is such a rascal, isn't it? The mind is always wandering here and there, telling you to do this, telling you you are this, and to do this. You are this. This is you. You're really cool. No matter what kind of body you have, you think it's cool at a certain point. Even the bug thinks he's cool. Because I saw a thing one time, I would love to get this video. I would even show this video to the congregation. It's on dung beetles. If you ever want to have to work very, very, very hard, just for a little sense gratification, take birth as a dung beetle. These things work like unbelievable. They have to walk upside down and push a big pile of dung down the road in order to get a mate. They have to walk upside down. And they push this big, and then there's dung beetle thugs that come and try to steal their dung because they wanted to show another girl that they got 2 piles of dung. Right? All big story. But we don't know what we're going to be in our next birth. What are we going to be? Yam Yam Bhapi Shmana Bhapi. Whatever our Shmana, where will we be remembering at the time of death? Therefore, Krishna tells, the Prabhupada mentions in the purport that one has to be practiced in Krishna consciousness in order to remember Krishna at the time of death. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul. One has to purify himself by this chanting of the holy names of the Lord, as was prescribed by Hanuman, that he wants to chant the glories of Lord Ramachandra. Let the glories of the Lord be sung at all times, at all places, at all circumstances. Let the holy name of the Lord, just like I was sitting there watching the kirtan, my back is a little loud. And I was watching the kirtan going back and forth, and all the devotees dancing and chanting and glorifying the Lord. It's so wonderful to see. You can see this it's a Sukham Kartamanya. It is joyfully performed. This is not the hackneyed, monistic. We're monistic, but we're not like the normal monistic. We're dancing and chanting and eating and doing all kinds of things. Anyway, in the material world, the living entity has no fixed body but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original form, with 2 hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by the material world. Imagine being uncontaminated by the material world. Just imagine for a second, you have no material aspirations or desires. Only desire is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Lord Ramachandra. That is our goal. Our goal is that we don't need any. Take, for example, I gave this example before. When I was a child, I wanted a tricycle. I got it, my parents gave me a tricycle. A few years later, I wanted a bicycle. My parents got me a bicycle. The tricycle wasn't in the garage, got hung up on the roof. A few years later, I said, I need a car, Dad. Okay, give me a car. That was a big mistake. Don't give a teenager a car unless you really, really want to be nervous. It's okay as long as they're under restrictions. So the desire changes. As the body changes, the desires change. I was thrilled when I was 3 or 4 years old to have a tricycle. I thought I was cool as heck running around. A few years later, I was good. Tricycle's not good enough anymore. Gotta have a bicycle, Gotta have mud flaps, gotta have baskets, gotta have a horn, gotta have all the paraphernalia that goes along with it. Thank you, Shri. Hare Krishna. So we don't have to understand that Krishna appears exactly in his internal form, uncontaminated by the material world. Whereas we're so contaminated, it's like unbelievable. At every moment our mind is telling us one more thing, just one more thing. It's like the old Charlie Brown thing in the Peanuts comedy where Lucy pulled the ball from him every time. And every time you go for the ball, he gets pulled out. Every time. Never mind. It doesn't matter. No matter what. It gets pulled out. Eventually, it gets pulled out. Srila Prabhupada said in this material world there's no sense gratification, but if I say that, everybody will be too disturbed, so I'll say there's a little tiny bit. A little tiny bit. He said maybe Hawaii. Although he appears in the same transcendental body, and the Lord is Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes birth like an ordinary living entity. Although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that the Lord grows from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth. But astonishing enough, he never goes beyond youth. No, can anybody say that? Not me. I look in the mirror every day and I think, oh my God, how did this happen? Of course, a few minutes later, a mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Maharaj, you're still on. Isn't it? The bewildering potency of Maya is so strong. You're going to think 60 years old. All you got to do is turn the mileage back a little bit, give it a paint job, and put it on the lot and try to sell it. It's hopeless. But there is hope against hope if we take to Krishna consciousness. There's hope against hope if we take to Krishna consciousness. At the time of the battle of Chaitra, Krishna had many grandchildren at home. In other words, he had sufficiently aged in material calculations. Still, he looked like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. We were discussing this last night. And Krishna, in certain religious traditions, they have a picture of God, no face, big gray beard, and just old with a cane, sitting on a chair. You know what I mean? What kind of, imagine that. If God is an old man, crippled, gray hair with a cane. Give me a break. He's never youthful. He's ever youthful. He's always youthful. And we were discussing that when we were like with Joe, we were discussing how the Krishna consciousness tells you who Krishna is, who is God. What does he look like? What form does he take? Well, he takes unlimited forms. Why? Because if God is unlimited. There is no limit to God. There's no limit to him. That's what unlimited means. He has no limit to his existence. And he can take on any form. He takes the form of a hog. He takes the form of a dwarf. He takes the form of a half man, half lion. He takes so many different forms in order to enact different pastimes that he wants to enact. And his devotees come with it and joyfully perform those pastimes with him. It's just like I was saying last night at the program what's the name of Arlington. That imagine your son or daughter comes home, and I hope it doesn't happen until they're a certain age. Dad, Mom, I'm in love. Uh-oh. What does he look like? I don't know. Where does he live? I don't know. What does he do? I don't know. How do you know you love him? I don't know. I just love him. Doesn't make any sense. You have to... What is that song we said last night? To know you is to love you, or like that. You have to know Krishna. You must know Krishna to understand him. To understand the more we hear about Krishna, the more we hear about Lord Ramachandra, the more we hear about the different forms of Krishna's incarnations, the more we begin to love and appreciate and respect that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Krishna, neither his body nor his intelligence deteriorates or changes. That is something that is really nice. Imagine your intelligence not deteriorating. I was thinking, last night I was asked a question and I said, I had the answer in my head and it was just there and I was thinking, oh my God, it's gone. It's totally gone. So I just said something and nobody noticed. I just said something completely different, nobody noticed, went on and said, okay, yeah, that's fine, Maharaj. Okay, fine. So Krishna's intelligence never deteriorates. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn, eternal, a form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun rising and moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is in our sight, we think that the sun has, when the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun has set. And when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in a fixed position. But owing to our defective and insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. So it is our deficiency, not God's deficiency. And in Krishna, even Arjuna, in this chapter, he shows us how to approach Krishna. It wasn't when Krishna told him that I appeared so many years ago and spoke this Bhagavad Gita to the sun god so many years ago to Vivishwan. it was like 120 million years or something like that in the purport. Prabhupada did the calculations. And Arjuna didn't say, you're 120 million years old? Yeah, right. No, he said, Krishna, you're 120 million years old? That's really hard for me to understand. How is that possible? Can you please explain it to me? He did it with great submission and great respect. Arjuna approached Krishna, not with this attitude of, no. Krishna was approached very properly by Arjuna. How am I to understand? How am I to understand you? Let me understand you according to your definition, not my concoction. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from any of the ordinary common living entities, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful, knowledgeable by his eternal potency, and that he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take birth in multi-manifestations. This is getting to the point where the purport, I remember now. This is the part that's nice. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he's still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayan with 4 hands and decorations of the 6 kinds of full opulences. What are the 6 opulences? Wealth, fame, beauty, strength, renunciation, knowledge. Very good. You got it all. Very good. Who did it? Everybody? Very good. Teacher giving test today. Pop quiz. Just like death. His appearance in his original eternal form is causeless mercy, bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on some mental concoction or imagination without which the impersonalists wrongly think the Lord formed to be. Here Prabhupada again takes a jab at the impersonalists. Never fails. Never fails. This impersonal philosophy is poison. It is simply poison. To think that God is impersonal. We're persons. How can we say that we're coming from something impersonal? God, we're a person. We're greater than God. We have something that God doesn't have. You want to be something, you think you're more than God? Give me a break. It's not true. God is a person. We're a person. God is a person. We gave the example last night. And if we say sunshine has heat and light, but the sun is cold and dark, it doesn't make any sense. The sunshine has heat and light. The sun must also have heat and light. We have personality. The Supreme Lord must also have personality. But his personality is not, what do you call it?
Mundane.
Mundane. It's not mundane. It's not full of all these mundane garbage that we have in this material world. It's just ridiculous when you think about it. It's a real web. It's just like Krishna, Maya spreads her web, and she's got a special web just for everybody. Maya has a little package, specially made for Rtadhvaja Swami, specially made for everybody in this room. A special package that you may not be able to resist. And let me show you. If you just take this little package, you'll be so cool you won't have to worry about it anymore. That'll be really great. No. Don't take it's like the little kids standing along the side of the river. One time I took the boys to Niagara Falls. I think we went to Niagara Falls a couple of times. And the river there, I don't know if the name of the Hudson River, I think it is. I'm not quite sure what the name of the river is there. And just raging right by the side of the park. And if you just touch that river, you're going over Niagara Falls, and you don't want to do that. And it's the same way. If you touch Maya, you'll go over Niagara Falls. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to touch Maya. Maya is for somebody else. So, the Supreme Lord as he is, and he is not, and not on mental consciousness, imagination, which is a mental. Okay, I put my finger to I can remember, so I just missed my point. The word Maya, or Atma Maya, refers to the Lord's causeless mercy. This is the point I wanted to get to. The Lord's causeless mercy, according to the Vishwa Kosha dictionary, The Lord is conscious of his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful superhuman activities while he is on earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and his body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world, and this will be explained in the next verse. So that Krishna causes mercy, and he appears in the form of Ramachandra, and he appears in all these different forms. He appears in these different forms so that we can have a chance to again reawaken our dormant God consciousness, so that we can understand our relationship with Krishna. Once we begin to hear about Krishna, we will never go back to the material world. As is running for me, I reward them accordingly, and general karma tame jivam evam yogi Rtadhvaja, that if you understand Krishna's appearance in this material world and his activities, then naiti mamiti asorajuna, you will not take birth again in the material world. That is Krishna's guarantee. So who would not take that? Who would not take that? Only a fool would not take that. Remember one time Navami gave a lecture here on Sunday feast. He was telling everybody, you're really foolish if you don't take the Krishna consciousness. And it's true. It's foolish not to take the God consciousness. What else do we have? What else do we have? We have only our God point average. What have we done for God? What are we doing? Our God point average. I love that one. You know? I just love that GPA. God point average. What are we doing for God today? What is our situation? What can we do today to remember Krishna? What can we do today to remember the Supreme Lord? What can we do in service to Krishna? Not coming before asking God to serve us, give us our daily bread, but going to Krishna, can I give you some bread? Can I make some chapatis for you? Can I make some puri for you? Can I make some sabji for you? Let me do this. And it's described that, one lecture Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna doesn't need your offering. He has, in the spiritual world, he has halava that is so good that your halava does not compare in any way. but we need to offer our halava to Krishna. We need it. We need to get the mercy of Krishna. We need the special mercy of Krishna. Because we put out our endeavor, and we get the mercy, and we get everything. Those two things, right? And the Shoda's pastime of trying to bind Krishna, those two things I mentioned the other day, that those things, mercy and endeavor, have to be there. We have to endeavor. We have to make the effort to become Krishna conscious. At every step, we have to make an endeavor. All day long. Not just come to church on Sunday, open the doors, okay God, I'm coming to see you, aren't you fortunate? You know, you're so fortunate I've appeared before you, my dear Lord. No, we come before the Lord because we want the Lord to see that, yes, I'm making an effort to serve you, my dear Lord. Let me serve you more and more with each and every breath I take. Let each and every one be dedicated to the service of you. I'm good at that. Okay. So, this is Lord Ramachandra's appearance day. Just like the class I told you was going to happen. We didn't talk about Supanika getting her nose cut off. We didn't talk about Marichi, the magician, turning into a deer. And we didn't talk about Ravana getting shot and all his heads coming up and down and up and down. And he had some of the benedictions. But Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're meant to worship Him, and we all get a chance to bathe Him today. We don't know God. We don't know how. We can't imagine the benefit of being in that kirtan, being in that abhishek. We cannot imagine how many lifetimes we've saved ourselves from suffering by this activity. So now it is time to break fast. Everybody's favorite time of the day. It's time to break fast. So we'll end here and we'll say all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Ramachandra Prabhu.